If you're not new to my channel, you will know that I am somebody that likes to give my time and attention to movies that I haven't heard anybody else talk about, which is in the past led to some hidden gems and some major disastrous fails. Like, nothing against the big hype movies, I too will be there with everybody else when Saw 11 gets released next year, but I usually like to let the hype die down first before I then watch those movies. But the reason I'm talking about these 8 movies today is because I haven't heard a single other person mention any of these 8 movies, and if you like the movies on this list, I have done this list once prior here on my channel and I will leave it linked at the end, and I have also twice done a list of 8 movies that I personally think deserve more attention as well. If you're new here, I go by Hordes, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, so if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, maybe stick around and join the Horde here on my channel by clicking that subscribe button, or if you have any movie recommendations of horror movies that you think nobody else has ever heard of, feel free to drop them in my comment section down below and let's get a list going where everybody else can go and check these movies out as well. So without further ado, on to the list. Liverleaf from 2019 is a Japanese revenge horror drama. Moving from Tokyo for her father's job, Haruko endures relentless and brutal bullying by her fellow classmates for simply being the new student, with one exception. Haruko's only friend is Mitsuru, who makes attending class and life that little bit more tolerable. Things go from bad to disaster when Haruko's house is burnt to the ground, resulting in the deaths of her parents and severely injuring her little sister. And on the verge of an emotional breakdown, Haruko begins to silently take revenge on all of those who are responsible. It's really hard to describe Liverleaf besides the basic plot because it really doesn't do justice to this entire story, but I can't expand on it because it would be major spoilers, so take my word for this one. It is set in northern Japan in the middle of the winter, and this movie 100% utilizes this landscape. We are talking some gory revenge kills with lots and lots of bright red blood spatter on crisp white snow. So it is beautiful to look at. It's hard to argue that any of these bullies didn't deserve what they have coming to them once you find out what happens in this movie, and they messed with the wrong girl in this, as fueled by her emotions, she goes on a revenge rampage and it is carnage once it starts. There is also some very positive LGBTQ+ representation in this movie, which I was so surprised at considering that this is a movie from Japan, so that is a nice bonus when it comes to Liverleaf.
I fully approve.
You can expect a sharp object straight in an eyeball, a crossbow hunt for bullies, multiple twists and turns, and crimson stains on pure white snow. Cute Little Buggers from 2017 is a horror comedy. When hostile aliens crash land on a local farmland, the villagers at the summer ball get suspicious when young women start going missing. The villagers soon band together around a local hero to fend off the invaders and bring back peace to the sleepy English countryside. This one is for my B-movie lovers out there, because when I tell you this movie is about fish-faced aliens with London accents using their technology to control the bunnies of Britain and turn them into murderous pests, I'm not exaggerating, and the CGI in this is so terrible, it is the most amazing thing you will ever see because it only makes this movie even better. There is a tongue-in-cheek sense of humour that goes with the statement, breeds like rabbits, but instead of rabbits, it's horny Brits out in the countryside. And the plot of this movie, I never knew where this was gonna go. It is campy, it is cheesy, it is ridiculous, and it is fully aware of just how ridiculous this is. One of the aliens is just simply called Brian. So there's your clue that they were like, well, how about we make this really ridiculous movie and just go with it? And the fact that the bunnies' little faces open like demogorgons is so cute.
They must be breeding like, well, rabbits.
You can expect so many innuendos. Everybody to be thirsty as hell, fish-faced aliens, one called Brian, and tiny little fluffy murder machines. They're so cute. Blood Clots from 2018 is an indie horror anthology consisting of 7 carefully curated horror shorts, all by different filmmakers. Blood Clots is a lower budget anthology featuring cannibals, zombies, and other creatures alike. Blood Clots is a lower budget horror anthology in a similar kind of way to how the ABCs of Death was when that was first released. Each one of these individual short movies is labelled as a clot. It is done by a separate director, and each one of them features something very different within a horror genre. You like werewolves? We got it. You like zombies? We got it. You like weird squid monsters? We got that as well. I am somebody that is always going to support lower budget anthologies because it's how up and coming directors and creative talents actually get showcased, which can then lead to bigger and better projects and eventually even feature debuts. My personal highlights though on this particular anthology is the short Still, which is one of the most unique things that I have ever seen to do with a zombie outbreak, and the movie Call of Charlie, which is about a Cthulhu-style monster going on a blind date.
What fake blind date? What are you talking about?
You can expect zombies, cannibals, werewolves, vampires, squid monsters, creepy kids, just to name a few. Zombiology from 2017 is a Hong Kong zombie horror comedy. When a monster from a popular animated kids show appears and starts a zombie outbreak, it is up to the eccentric duo of Lung and Chi Young to stand up and fight the horde of the recently deceased and save their friends and new love interest from all around chaos. Zombiology is about two friends who like to pretend that they are the heroes in their own anime and kind of just skate through life. You can then mix this in with like a family drama, really goofy comedy, and zombies. So we're already going for a full mix of things, and then you add in the fact that the villain in this is a square-shaped chicken who lays bombs that get thrown like grenades. So this one's a wild ride. You then get these really heartfelt moments sprinkled in. You spend a lot of time with the survivors in this one, watching how their relationships grow and change, and they begin to understand each other in ways that they hadn't prior. And then the last 30 minutes, all hell kind of breaks loose, and when I say it's raining egg grenades at one point, I'm not kidding. There's explosions everywhere.
Withstand the temperature of over 1,000 degrees.
You can expect a zombie child getting yeeted in a bowling alley, homemade weapons that are worthy of the Dead Rising video game franchise, Colonel Sanders' worst nightmare coming into existence, and two nerds getting to live out their real-life anime superhero fantasy. Cannibals and Carpet Fitters from 2017 is a horror comedy. A group of carpet fitters are sent on a job to an old country house in the middle of nowhere. However, they soon discover it is a trap set up by the savage, cannibalistic family, the Hannings. The carpet fitters are forced to fight for their lives or risk ending up as the evening's dinner. Unfortunately, they are not quite your typical heroes. If you want a campy, gory, cheesy horror comedy with a group of really likeable protagonists, then Cannibals and Carpet Fitters might just tick all of those boxes, as this movie is like if the Sawyer family from Texas Chainsaw Massacre had inbred British cousins that lived out in the countryside. We'll call it the Broke Bridgerton Crossbow Massacre. Much like another British horror comedy, Cockneys vs Zombies, Cannibals vs Carpet Fitters, everything that you need to know about this movie is already there in the name, and the Cannibal family get a decent amount of screen time in this, led by the infamous mum Mrs. Hannings, who does some very questionable baking in this movie. But then you pair this with Dean and Darren, who are our carpet fitting duo, and the new boy Malcolm, who really, bless him, he's trying his best, but let's just say he's not the best in a situation where you could die and end up being eaten.
We're trying our best.
Your best is an idiot.
You can expect some gory kills, especially with a crossbow, a carpet fitter dancing to a song about being invited for dinner, and a human nipple ending up in a pie. Summoning Sylvia from 2023 is an LGBTQ+ horror comedy. Larry and his three best friends head upstate for a weekend getaway at a haunted house to celebrate his bachelor party. As they wander through the dusty corridors, they recount the home's legend from 100 years ago of a murderous woman named Sylvia who slaughtered her son and buried him beneath the floorboards. As they later hold a high-spirited seance to summon the sinister Sylvia, they wind up welcoming more guests than they actually bargained for. The movie starts off with Judy Garland being played on an old school record player. Like, what more could you possibly want from an LGBTQ+ horror comedy? How about a seance that goes wildly wrong before we jump back 6 hours to find out how we got there, and the arrival of a future brother-in-law who isn't tolerant of anything that isn't exactly straight, in desperate need of a change of mind. It is campy, it is funny, it is unapologetically queer, and I love that about this movie. It is a comedy first, and then a classic haunted house meets possession movie draped in a rainbow flag second. This was actually one of my favourite movies that I watched in 2023, and I will be the first to say that this movie is great if you are not a fan of gory and violent horror movies, as there isn't any of that in Summoning Sylvia.
And I think I'm kinda gay.
You can expect a group of friends that clearly care a lot about each other, a gay man trying to find any kind of common ground with his future brother-in-law, a seance that goes wildly wrong, and a sexy ghost scene that kind of has a lot of similarities to a scene from Scary Movie 2. If you like Summoning Sylvia though, go and watch Slay, which came out this year. This is my hidden gem favourite 2024 release that has come out so far this year, and people are sleeping on Slay. It is drag queens versus vampires. Think Tu Wong Fu meets From Dusk Till Dawn, and it is on Tubi, which means it is absolutely free. So go and watch that one and you can come back and thank me later, so think of it as a bonus recommendation. Head from 2015 is a puppet horror comedy. 5 20-somethings go on a weekend camping trip to remote New England, only to discover that the land on which they are staying is the site of a mass murder from years ago. Now they must uncover the truth before they suffer the same fate as the people before them. This one is absolutely not going to be for everybody, because this is the definition of a niche movie. If you can think of a horror movie trope, and I mean any of them, put them all into the same movie and then replace all the actors with fleecy style Muppet puppets, you get Head from 2015. This on paper may sound like the weirdest concept you've ever heard, but trust me when I say that this kind of works, because the acting choices are just slightly over the top because the puppets are so simple, where if a person was making these questionable acting decisions, it wouldn't work at all. Coming out of a puppet, very different. And Head is an ode to like good 80s slasher movies. Like if you can think of a trope from an 80s slasher movie, it is in here. Absolutely all of them. It's just with puppets, which makes it that slightly bit weirder. And to top it all off, this movie is only 1 hour and 1 minute long. There is a short movie at the very beginning of this, again using puppets, and if you don't like the short movie at the beginning, you are not going to like the main feature. So my advice is watch the short first and then decide if you want to watch the rest of this one.
Scooby-Doo, take note.
You can expect the murder of multiple puppets that bleed actual blood, 20-something-year-olds that cover every single stereotype that you can think of from a slasher movie, a town full of secrets, and then puppets engaging in mattress sports both in and out of their tents. Cherry Tree from 2015 is a folklore horror mystery. Faith's world is turned upside down when she finds out her father is dying. Offering to cure her father in exchange for a child, Faith strikes a bargain with Sissy, the head of a centuries-old witch coven that uses the fruit of an ancient cherry tree in a secret ritual that restores life to the dead and dying. Finding herself pregnant with a baby that is growing at an alarming rate, and the clock to the child's birth ticking down, the true intention of Sissy's plans for humanity are finally revealed. This is why you don't make deals with or cross questionable covens of witches, because they will use their familiars, which in this case are centipedes, to literally bury into your soul to give them power. Cherry Tree is a mix of a really gritty high school drama and a folklore horror about a coven of witches who uses very dark magic to keep themselves going. There is so much symbolism in this movie to do with the colour red, and it is absolutely everywhere. It all links back to the lore of this coven of witches that uses cherries to do their dark magic. In their lore, it states that they gathered underneath a cherry tree in the town of Orchard, which happens to be the town that this movie takes place in. The lore is great in this movie, and there are some amazing practical effects that happen in the last part of this movie, which is definitely worth sticking around for, and the magic is so dark in this.
You are in for a treat.
You can expect the colour red absolutely everywhere, centipedes, a single father and daughter caught up in a plot to save his life, and a dark coven of witches with a very ulterior motive. So there you have it, the 8 horror movies that I think you have never heard of. If you are interested in watching any of these though, I will leave links to justwatch.com in my description bar so you can see where they are streaming in your country, because that's what I always do here on my channel. If you would like to know where else you can find me though, you can also find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd. I will leave links as well, so that way you can see every single horror movie that I watch, not just the ones that I talk about here on YouTube. But speaking of YouTube, I will be back on Friday, and this time it will be with another solo movie review, because it's been a while since I watched a movie that is so bad it is potentially hilarious. And I think I might have outdone myself with the next one, because dinosaurs. So until next time, bye.